Now we're going to finish this section with a couple of inequalities that are going to give rise to special situations that you might encounter along the way. So let's see, if I want to solve the first one, I have solve the absolute value of x minus 4 plus 6 is less than positive 3, sorry. So remember that what I need to do in this situation is to isolate the absolute value, right, on this side of the inequality. So I'm going to write 3x minus 4 less than, and I'm going to subtract a 6, so I get a negative 3. Now, when we do these problems, if you're doing mechanically one over another, and this shows up, some students just keep going and write, well, it's less than negative 3, then it could be between negative 3 and positive 3. It's a less than, right, not a greater than, so that's when it was easier. But if you read this carefully and stop for what it says, it means the absolute value of a quantity, 3x minus 4, we want to find for what values of x the absolute value of 3x minus 4 would be less than a negative number. So there are no solutions, right? There are no, that this is impossible, because the absolute value of whatever is inside here, whatever's inside those absolute value bars, it's always going to be positive or 0 at most, right? It can never be less than negative 3. Regardless of what number it is, it's going to be less than 0. So it should not be less than negative 3. So if you don't read carefully what's going on here, mechanically you can jump to the next step or and don't realize that it was negative. No, you need to read carefully what we're solving. This one has no solution. Okay, so if you have the absolute value, if you end up with an inequality that says absolute value of a quantity is less than a negative number, you have to stop and just write directly no solution. Okay, so now the second example. In the second example, if I do the same thing, it says absolute value plus 4 greater than 2, I'm going to write absolute value. I need to subtract the 4, so greater than negative 2. This one is different, because this one has absolute value greater than a negative number. And in this one, regardless of the value of x, it's surrounded by an absolute value. The absolute value of whatever is inside will always be positive. At the smallest it could be is 0, right? Because the absolute value of 0 is 0. So on this one is the opposite. What numbers of x, what values of x would make this statement true? Any value of x, right? Because regardless of what the value of x is, the left side will always be positive or 0 at least. So this is solution is all real numbers. Or you can write negative infinity to infinity. So when we solve absolute value inequalities, it's not just about the mechanics and knowing some rules. You have to really understand what the absolute value is. You have to really think what it's telling you in examples before. And even on these, right, you have to stop and say, okay, this makes no sense, or it always makes sense, and say there's always a solution or there's no solution.